Nobody here gets to sit back and slouch because I've been on a plane. I landed an hour ago. I've slept, I think, 1 hour and 36 hours. So everybody here, we're getting ready to rock and roll. Good to be here. Good to see everybody. I feel like this is a reunion. This whole opportunity to be here and see everybody is because of this guy in the back, Mark Steffens. And Mark, I have something to show everybody about you. And I moved to Charlotte in 1996, straight out of college, started my own company, Athlete by Design. And at the time, there wasn't an industry called sports performance. It was called strength and conditioning. So you're either in a weight room or you could be a physical therapist in a room with white walls and blue carpet. And I didn't want to be in either one of those. I wanted to be out and about and get this thing going to speed and movement and stuff like that. And so I come to Charlotte, work with a couple of schools, and I get connected with this guy named Mark Steffens with this team called the Charlotte Eagles. And at the time, when Mark and I started talking about speed, Mark was in a different venture back then. And Mark showed me this little gray box. And really, this thing doesn't mean anything to anybody in here. But if you can see Mark's face right now, everybody look at Mark's face. So you can see his face is red and smiling. So half of you don't even look like you were born in 1995 here. But this was technology in 1995. This was actually globally technology. It's called a reaction coach. And Mark starts telling me, because I was a speed coach, and that's kind of what I built a lot of my initial part of my business on. So he shows me this box, and you hit start, and then you snap your hands, and it flashes. Mark, I got one of the only probably 4 working ones in the world left, right? And it flashes. I know, listen, yeah. And then Mark put all this behind, and no joke, this really was. I took this everywhere. I ended up having 5 of them from him, and ended up being the first speed coach in the history of the NFL for 10 years. We did a lot of cool stuff. But Mark, man, that's honoring you, and I haven't even seen you in like 20 years. So that's great, man. We're excited for that. Good to see everybody. Let me throw us some prayer real quick, and let's get this thing going. And I'm sure everybody will follow lead with praying today. You guys are going to get a lot of prayer, but I got to throw something down. Heavenly Father, thank you for today, the opportunity to land safely on an airplane and come here and see some incredible people, meet new friends. Thank you for the opportunity to be called a coach. Thank you for the opportunity to be called a leader. Thank you for the opportunity to inject good into the life of another. Father, put every one of us here in the middle of what you're doing. Run us over with your presence. Father, put us in places where nobody wants to go, and that everybody here leans in with courage and runs to that space for you. Excited for the next hour to share and help everybody here when they leave here that they feel like that being a part of this conversation, not a talk, was a guaranteed investment of their time. Amen. All right. I got to share a quick story here because I see Chick-fil-A. My grandmother's 99 years old. She passed away last week. But like many of you here, you invested outside of just being a soccer coach. I forgot about this story. And twice a month, this is my 13th year with Penske Racing. So I get to play redneck twice a year. For those of you that aren't into NASCAR, I work with NASCAR drivers and pit crews. It's a great thing as a guy. It's kind of a due time for me twice a month. And this was a couple months ago, and I'd call and talk to my grandmother, check in on her, and she goes, Jeremy, it's a true story, everybody does. She goes, Jeremy, you're not doing enough for people. I go, what? She goes, you're not doing enough for people. Now, she's 99, grew up from Mobile, Alabama, that's where I'm from, and she's just straight up all about, right, from the Depression, you got to do stuff for people. I go, Granny Helen, come on, now listen. I said, that's all we're trying to do. We're investing in the lives of people all over this country. I've been in 27 states in 6 months. Like, I'm trying. She goes, I don't care. You're not doing enough for people. Fine. So I go to bed. I'm feeling guilty. I get up on Wednesday morning, twice a month. I go to NASCAR. And I stop by Chick-fil-A at 6 a.m. And I get this my little Chick-fil-A time for twice a month, usually when I'll have it. And I go, you know what? I'm going to do something nice for somebody. But it was out of guilt, right? Because my grandmother, 99, I feel guilty. I'm going to buy somebody's meal. Like, that's going to make me feel better, but it's supposed to be for somebody else. So I walk in. Nobody's in Chick-fil-A. It's the same manager. It's this young guy. And I walk in, and there's this 5'2" girl. Looks like a girl to me because she's 5'2", and I'm not. So I walk in, and the manager's looking at me, and I go, hey, you know what? I want to buy your breakfast. Okay, now, the intention should be because all about her, but I felt guilty. It was all about me. So, and I had $8 and probably 50 cents in my pocket. And I knew, because she's 5'2", so wrong, by the way, that, man, $8.50 was enough to buy her breakfast, right? You figured chicken minis, a biscuit, and whatever. I was like, man, it's perfect, right? So I want to buy your breakfast. She doesn't turn around. And my buddy looks at me, and so I tap her on the shoulder. I'm like, I would love to buy you breakfast. She turns around. She doesn't speak English. So I'm like, oh, great. So then I'm having this English barrier. So then we convinced that I'm buying her breakfast. And she turns back around, and she goes like, she bows. She does like this. She turns back around. Y'all, I'm not kidding. She turns back around, she goes, I like 5 number 1s. I like 3 number 2s. I'm not kidding you, man. She goes, I like a chocolate milkshake. I would like fruit. And so she ended up ordering. I'm going, what? Man, I got $8.50, Lord. I'm trying to do something nice for this lady because, She orders it all, and my buddy, we've known each other forever, and he looks right at me, stone cold in the eye, and he goes, that'll be $55.23. What? So you gotta be kidding me. So she turns around, I get it all, I order it, I pay, turn around, and this 5'2" woman and all 12 of her family are in the corner, and they're doing this. Man, the moral of that story is, if you're going to come into something, and if you're going to be a blessing and inject good into the life of another, you can't do it on your terms and your conditions, right? And that's my Chick-fil-A story. Way to go, we rock and roll. So, which is really good. Let's talk about leadership today. And when I first moved here in '95, and then we got to do a lot of really cool things. One of the few people and coach 80-something world champions, Olympic medalists in 8 countries around the world. But it's been through soccer for most of it, right? And soccer has taken me a lot of wonderful places. First American down in Brazil. Then we were over in 2004 in the English national team, and I had to sign an NDA, and I didn't know what that was. And they flew me over there, and I'm in my mid-20s, and they put me in a castle in some place called Loughborough, and I couldn't tell anybody I was there because Americans don't know soccer, right? And they kept me in there for 2 weeks. Quick goal, and we're using that. And as I'm getting to coach all these different athletes around the world, we can make people faster. We can help people get stronger. We could rehab them from an ACL. But the frustration piece was that they struggled still on the pitch. They struggled on the field. They struggled in life. They struggled. And it came back to leadership. And we started researching leadership, and we started researching the brain around 2004. So by that time, I was 9 years in, and it was my 3rd year with the Panthers, and we were with the Red Sox that year, and they won the World Series, and we were with soccer, and we started researching how people make decisions about themselves. Not psychology, and I like psychology, and there's some tools there we all use, but I needed to know, and I needed to find a way to measure how somebody made a decision, because at the end of the day, wins and losses was not about personality, it was about decision making, right? At the end of the day, do I pass, do I dribble, do I shoot? Decisions. And we started measuring decisions and patterns of decisions in 2 different viewpoints, and how people make decisions in their self-view, everything inside their skin, and then in their worldview, everything outside of their skin. And we took all this data, and we've done now over probably 50, 60,000 of athletes and high-performing leaders around the world, and we came back, and all roads came down to decision-making and leadership for high performers. And what I want to do today is I want to share a couple of big ideas in the short time I have on what we have found will help leaders, will help coaches give you the best chance in pursuit of telling your championship story, whatever that means to you. Because that means something different for everybody beyond winning. And that's the setup, right? You play to win. You compete for the chance to win. So beyond winning, what does that look like? And the question that if we had an opportunity to sit here, and I asked Kelly, and I've asked Mark years ago, and Dustin and I have talked about this all the time, and Kelly's staff, if we had a chance to sit there, the first question that I would ask you would be this. Beyond a title, this is the question we started researching in 2004. Why should anybody follow you? Really? Why should somebody follow you? What makes you a leader that others can't wait to follow? Not want to follow, can't wait to follow. Right? What makes you follow worthy? What would you say? And everybody here's got a journal. I'm going to give you 60 seconds, and I want you to write down, and let's see what you come up with. And we're going to do some interactive stuff here. Why should anybody follow you? You got 60 seconds. What would you say? Right? What makes you a leader that others can't wait to follow? Beyond a title and a paycheck. Because everybody in here, I'm sure, is getting paid a lot of money. 45 seconds. You don't age, man. That's crazy. 30 seconds. I'm a speed coach. I'm putting you on the clock. Why should somebody follow you? Ten to go. All right, well, some of you are wrapping up. Let's put some people on the spot here. Why should somebody follow you?
Because my heart is for them to find their identity in Christ.
Okay, great. Why should somebody follow you?
Learn, play, love differently.
Say it one more time so they can hear it.
Learn, play, love differently.
It's great. Why should somebody follow you?
Because I strive to see them as people, not as skill sets.
There you go. Great. Yeah, value in that way. That's wonderful. Why should somebody follow you?
Because I try to be the best version of myself in service of something bigger, and I try to teach them to do the same thing.
Yeah, great.
I coach guys, so I said, because I have a greater desire to help you be a better man of God than anything else.
Yeah, it's wonderful, right? Spread the news. Why should somebody follow you? Yeah?
I have equal care for everyone.
Yeah, equal care. Great. Let's go over here to the young lady. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I said I create space for people to be themselves, but willing to grow.
Willing to grow, which is great. Ooh, you know what? Let's talk about growth since we'll pause about that. All those are good. Here's what I would tell you about growth real quick. Where's my laptop? Here's what we'll say about growth. You teed that up wonderful, so thank you. Growth isn't for everybody, neither is winning. That's one of the pieces that we start when we work with athletes and we work with coaches, man. Let's put it out there. Now, notice we're not saying that growth isn't available to everybody, right? But growth isn't for everybody. You know why? Because growth is what? Hard. It's tough. Growth in our faith, growth, though, as a high performer, whatever the track is, it's where it is. Here's what we know about growth. Growth dies in our comfort zone. What's best for us is likely outside of our what? Comfort zone. Your brain, my brain is going to fight like heck to keep you inside your what? Comfort zone. Right? That's a 3. We got 5 little laws of growth. Number 4 is that all improvement starts with the truth. That's a great phrase for those of you working with young people. And you're coaching, you want to put in there in tough spots. That's a great leading language phrase to put in. All improvement starts with the truth. Let's lean into that and see what that piece is for sure. And then number 5 around growth is that you will always default to your level of normal. You'll always default to your level, especially in the highest, most pressure-filled situations. You'll default to your level. That's why you got to continue to grow. You got to continue to normalize, continue to raise, and what those things work. And so, when we talk about growth, we have a couple of elements to growth I'm going to share with you today. And we're going to get into story and the part why Kelly actually asked me to come and share. But we're going to put it everybody here. Everybody's a coach. Here's our framework for growth. Number 1, truth. I'm going to give you 4. Number 2, trust. Number 3, discipline. And number 4, toleration. So in all of our research in the brain and the mind with people, this is how when we go in and we help work with individuals who want to grow. Truth, trust, discipline, and toleration. Now, truth is tough because it's whose truth are you listening to, right? And everybody has a different version, and your version is different than mine, and perspectives are different. And we got to be able to lean in and be able to look at that. Trust is very challenging as a coach with today's young people because trust tends to be conditional. One of the givebacks, we've got the second largest high school student athlete leadership program in the United States. We're in 27 states and 4 countries. And we lean and we teach young people about all the stuff that we're talking about now. And we've had, this is tough, I'm just going to put it out there. This is tough. We've had 16 suicides in 2 years of incredible young men and women. Incredible. They got 3.8, 4.0 GPAs. They're captains of their team. They got wonderful 2-parent homes they're rocking in. And it's about split boys and girls. I mean, it is tough. And some of the reasons that are coming back is because they don't feel like they have anybody that they can really what? Trust. And this is the best of the best, right? And how, as everybody in here, as leaders, as coaches leaning in, coaches on mission, the mission is to pour into the lives of young people, develop them beyond the pitch, develop them beyond the field, develop them into people who will go and add value into the life of the world and can get to know, and as a Christian, get to know Jesus and spread the word. And I mean, I drink that cool, I'm in, right? But trust, and what's that look like in terms of relationally, and is it conditional? Because young people think that. And let me tie that back to this idea around why, in the beginning, why I just asked you a few minutes ago, why should anybody follow you? We did research and we had over 500 teenagers meaning high school and college, in a room. And I had some of the biggest names in college coaching sports in the room, and high school coaches were in the room. And we asked that, and would you guys want to follow them? And this is what the kids said. And the coaches were up there going, you follow me because we love kids. You follow me because we want to help you develop potential you don't even see in yourself. You follow me because it's all the stuff that everyone, that you guys put, that I put too. We look at these kids and they go, And I ask them, I go, who here is so excited that you heard Coach X from Hall of Fame NCAA coach, that you heard Coach Y over here from high school? Man, like, you heard them say that doesn't get you fired up? This is what they told us. And we did this 4 years in a row as this research study. Coach Boone, adults are supposed to say that. You're like, what? Wait, time out. Like, I'm ready to go run through a brick wall for this cat, right? This guy is rolling. Yeah, Coach Boone, they're supposed to say they love us. They're supposed to say they want to invest in us. They're supposed to say that they want to help us reach our potential. They're supposed to say, I had to be able to do that. But we don't always trust that. That's tough. And then we got to circle back and say, okay, well, why? Well, what's the underlying factor? And we researched that for 4 years, and it came back to this idea that connection trumps communication. And as coaches, we really want to be really good communicators, yes or no? We want to be clear, concise, you're time-starved, you have 60 minutes, 75 minutes for practice, and we got to roll. But today's youth, they need connection first. They need communication, but they need connection trumps communication. If we're going to have a chance to build trust so they can hear truth, right? And we kind of reverse order this for everybody. Jeremy, what are some differences between connection and communication? Here are a couple. Communication uses language about what I want from you. Connection uses language about what I want for you. Communication tends to lead with statements. Connection tends to lead with questions. Communication is about what I can get. Connection is about what I can give. Communication is built around agreement. Connection is built around alignment. True connection creates a space that if Tiffany and I have by the way, Tiffany, what's up? Y'all, before the end of the day, every single body needs to go introduce yourself to her. I'm telling you, the most incredible human being on this planet. That's true. So, but if Tiffany and I have a disagreement, connection creates a safe space for the word no to show up. And we still move forward in the same direction. Communication is on agreement, so that doesn't happen. So growth framework, truth first, connection second. Truth first, trust second. The third one is discipline. And if I were to ask you to share me your story, you tell me the highlights of your story and how you became a coach and how you're impacting people now, and now we're at Belmont Abbey and now all these places, then we would say, yeah, part of that helped you get there is because of the discipline that you brought to the table, right? Maybe as a player first and a coach second. But then we would also say the flip side of that is that lack of discipline in some area of that is the reason why your story, my story, isn't even better, right? Because we all have something right now where you know you got to lean in and be more disciplined. You know what, whatever that is, all right? Think about it. You don't have to even think hard about it. But lack of discipline is what prevents our stories from being even better. Lack of discipline prevents our opportunity to connect with young people even more. And part of that reason is because of this up here, our brain. And coaches who they claim and they talk and their mouth is louder than their effort, and they end up being average is because they let the 5 words get into their brain that prevents discipline from showing up, which means they don't grow, which is I don't feel like, finish the sentence. And when you let I don't feel like get into your brain is telling you what to do. But the objective to come in and bring all of you to the moment, for me to bring all 5 senses to the moment, regardless of how I feel, so I can inject good into the life of another, I've got to tell my brain what to do. Otherwise, my brain's going to tell me, be safe, do as little as possible, right? Your brain, my brain, is not wired to get us to the mountaintops, not wired for self-discipline. It's wired to... So discipline, we've got to lean in. And the players you work with, if you have teenage brains in here, man, they're definitely not wired for that. And they've got to learn that. And the last one is toleration. Truth, trust, discipline, and toleration. What you tolerate, others will view that you promote, right? What you tolerate, others will view that you promote. I've got one of my closest friends is a high school PE teacher at the largest public high school in the state of North Carolina. And he teaches first period, and he is an incredible PE teacher. His classes actually are physical and educational. Physical education, go figure. Most in our United States is not physical or educational. That's why kids are out there in jeans and they're kind of sitting on the side of a fence. But not this gentleman. And his classes always fill up. And I was giving him a hard time. I'm like, listen, I know you're not that much fun to be around. He's like, no, come on, yeah. So I show up at 6:30 a.m., school starts at 7. I'm in the parking lot, and all these kids are getting out, and they're walking in, and they have a rule. The principal has a rule that there's no food on campus, right? What you tolerate, others view that you promote. And he's a phenomenal coach. Loves kids, great connector. Man, first group of kids get out, they're bringing in Chick-fil-A biscuits. Second group's Bojangles, right? And then they're coming back here, and we actually, at one time, we had Hardee's. The Hardee's biscuits, I think, were better than Chick-fil-A. And they're all coming in. And I walk in and I go, hey, listen, what do you love most about Coach Bagwell? Right? He's fun, he's great, yeah, okay, he's great. But what do you love most about coming in at 7 a.m. in the morning and you're willing to change and get dressed? And we asked about 60 kids. All of them said the same thing. Well, we love Coach Bagwell, Coach Boone. But you know what we really love? What do you think he said? What do you think he said? Man, we love that he lets us bring food in. What you tolerate, others view that you what? Promote. And Hal's sitting there thinking that all these kids are loving PE, and they are, but they really love more what he tolerated that they then got to not have to be disciplined about because they're teenage brains. Right? What you tolerate, others view that you promote. Write down one thing right now. What is the one biggest area of toleration that is preventing you from getting your mission accomplished? Right? I'll give you 30 seconds. Toleration. What are you tolerating? Here's a different way that you can ask this to yourself. What am I tolerating that my mission says I shouldn't be? Yes. Like, it's crazy. It's easy. What are you tolerating that your mission says you shouldn't be? People writing. And while you're writing, in the interest of time, I'm going to keep talking. But here's typically what people tend to write down naturally as a bias. They tend to write down something in the external viewpoint. They're tolerating somebody else's actions or behaviors. Or they're tolerating somebody else's rules. Or they're tolerating somebody else's lack of resources that then we don't have, so we can't get better. That's an external view. Very few will start when ask that question of something in their self-view. The one thing they write down rarely is that they tolerate how they speak to themselves. They tolerate how they treat themselves. They tolerate that they keep chasing confidence in the most important moments instead of leading in with courage. And then they come back and then they play victim, blame, excuse, and compare of why the story doesn't go the way that they thought it should go, or where they were praying for God the way it should go and it didn't go that way. And they're playing victim, blame, excuse but they're tolerating themselves. You have an opportunity to step in and lean into that. So, truth, trust, discipline, and what? Toleration, right? Growth. There's your growth framework. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool for everybody in here to be applied two ways. The first way is through self-reflection and self-awareness. If you want to make learning stick, and even as a coach, when you're coaching strategic on the field or you're doing some tactical work on the field, self-awareness and self-reflection are only two ways to make learning stick in the brain. Like, that's it. So you use that. We use that every Monday. We go through. What's the truth about what's going on this week? Trust. Who do I need to trust more that I'm not trusting, I'm not able to? Who needs me? Who needs to trust me more? It's all me. But they can't because of however I'm acting, whatever I'm doing, or the experience I create, or the energy that I bring, or the example that I set, or the environment that I design, or the expectation that I uphold, or the execution that I demand, whatever those you want to throw in. Like, what's that piece? Trust. Who needs that? What do I need to be more disciplined on the things that my brain says don't do it because it's mundane and it's boring, and your brain, my brain, chases novel to the exclusion of necessary. Like, where do I have to lean in on that or tolerate? And then here's the second way I want you to use this framework is for listening. Because a winning leader makes listening their competitive edge. Never this, always this. Always. And when you can go in and put just a little bit of language into the front side of a conversation of a young person, now you can inject precision and accuracy and help guide, right, for their brain of where it needs to go. Right? Cece, it sounds like you're really struggling with trusting yourself right now. This is a really, really big opportunity for you. You've worked really hard. You're trying to get on our starting 11 going through. And in the biggest moments, it sounds like that you're not happy with it because you're not trusting yourself. And Cece goes, wow, yeah. Never thought about it like that. Instead of me injecting a task list. Well, you need to get stuck in on 50-50 balls more. You need to, right, whatever it may be. Cece, what are you tolerating within yourself right now that you think is preventing you from reaching your goals and your objectives? Tiffany, where could you be just a little bit more disciplined? And by doing so is going to then build confidence so you don't have to chase confidence. Does that make sense, everybody? Right? How we're using growth? Okay? So far in our conversation, we've talked about the number one question that we give leaders that all of you should give every one of your players because it's going to let you know what they think about them, which is, why should anybody what? Follow you, really? Like, what makes you follow-worthy? And then, well, once we kind of know that, then we, as a leader, we got to say, well, we've got to lean into, this is about growth and getting better. Now, how many of you in here are at the college level? Okay, so you ready for this? Let's just talk, all improvement starts with the truth. Let's call it duck a duck. If you're out there using language to get there that says, we're going to get better today, you're actually just average. I'm going to put it out there to you. Because every one of you are trying to get what? Yeah, so you're doing what everybody else does. Like, that's the same kind of language. And here's the tough part about average is that you got to be careful about just going and say, we're getting better today with a teenage brain, because then that's tolerating and bringing in mediocrity. And mediocrity does not need a leader. Doesn't need a leader. You know what else about mediocrity? Let's tie it back to the growth framework. Mediocrity hears truth as hurtful, not helpful. And you got to be careful about that in the way, the language that you use around young people. So, why I'm excited for Kelly and his vision and Mark jumping on board and then everybody else rolling in here, and you're here to get, is because you're not here to get better today. I mean, you are, but let's take it up, because at that level, and at the high school level too, but definitely at the pros as well. If you want the chance to go tell your championship story, you got to be the best at getting better. Right? Not getting better. We got to be the best at getting better. And our Olympians, our NFL players, our Major League Baseball players, our soccer players, the MLS, and you keep going through. We got to go through and put context around what does that mean for you as a player? What does it mean for you as a coach really to be the best at getting better today? And that starts with not letting those 5 words getting into your head. I don't feel like blank. And about 5 minutes from now, about 25% of you, just bell-shaped curve, your brain's going to go in and go, I don't feel like leaning in with Jeremy anymore. He's talking really fast. He's giving me a lot of stuff. I'm now kind of going, blah, 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 so I'm going to lean out. And you get to choose at that point. You get to tell your brain what to do, or you're going to listen to let your brain tell you what to do. Right? Okay. Watch anybody follow you. Growth framework, truth, trust, discipline, and toleration. We use it as a tool for awareness and reflection, and then we use it as a tool for listening. And then now let's jump into story, because this is where the rubber meets the road for everybody in here. And your brain and my brain is wired for story. Your brain, my brain is wired for value, to add value, but it's wired for narrative. And here's how you know this to be true. When COVID came through, all of a sudden, ambiguity jumped everywhere, globally in our world, and nobody's brain knew what to do. And then you start having state anxiety and state depression coming in through with that. The brain needs certainty, and the brain needs clarity, right? To be able to lean in through that. And this will be the only geeky thing I'm going to share with you today. But this is important for all of you. There's what's called the narrative transportation theory, and here's what that says, and here's what that means, the narrative transportation theory. It means that when an individual immerses themselves into a story, then they begin to reflect the beliefs of that story. And if your beliefs change, then what changes? Behavior. Right? Narrative transportation theory. If you immerse yourself, if an individual immerses themselves in a story, their beliefs tend to reflect that story. If their beliefs change, their behavior changes. So when I have coaches that go, Jeremy, how can I help? I'm working with these U19 boys, which, by the way, is a teenage male brain. And guys, there's the tough part for every one of us in here, right? Females, their brains become adults at 23. We don't become adults till like 26. So that's tough. So if you've got a bunch of 23, 24, 25, you're still coaching teenage brains with males to go through that. So narrative transportation theory was story. So when you tee up your seasons and when you are pouring into the life of somebody else, then we want to let this idea of what's the story, what's the desirable but difficult to achieve future that I'm going to help make real for those that I get to coach. That's the guiding, that is it. That's the litmus test if you want that opportunity to help get the most out of somebody else and you partner and align and connect with them. What's the desirable but difficult to achieve future that you are going to try to help make real for those that follow you? And that's not just you as a coach and a team of players, but that's even in your home. My wife and I, we have to rally around that. We've got 3 kids. We have to rally around. What's the desirable but difficult to achieve future that we are trying to make real for our family and for our kids? And, by the way, for each other. You got to be careful with kids if you make them the center point of everything, and then that's a whole nother time. Right? What's the story? When we look at story, we got a couple of parts to it, And this is what I feel like is going to add the most value to every one of you in here today, given he gave me an hour to talk. Right? And by the way, in Dropbox, I'm going to put a whole outline for all of you. All right? Which is, yeah, I don't expect you to go roll at all this. If we look at story framework, when we go and work with coaches, I'm going to focus on the last one, but we're going to build this out. Your story framework, traditional language starts with a vision. We call it a promised land. Your desirable but difficult to achieve future that you're going to make real. The second part of our story framework is what's our mission? Our mission says, what's the most important thing that if done every single day will get our team one step closer to reaching our promised land? You ready? As fast as possible and with the least amount of risk. And once I dial in on that mission, then that's my obligation as a leader to do nothing else but protect the mission. I got to lock in on that as the leader. And anything else beyond that, call me a manager. Because most coaches call themselves leaders, and I go and watch and spend practice, and all they're doing is managing. There's no leadership in there. That's okay. But people need leaders. Right? Third part of this, I'm going to give you the 4, is your identity. You guys are going to leave here with a couple of frameworks today. Your identity. Now, for those of you with a psychology background, I'm going to share a principle with you in the world of mental performance. When we have March Madness came, and we had Division I coaches that were in second round calling me saying we're having culture problems and we're having self-doubt problems, and just list all these mental pieces. This is the core. At the end of the day, you can't outperform your self-identity in the world of mental performance. You can't outperform it. You can fake it for 1 or 2 games, but the truth for yourself about what you believe about you at the end of the day is always going to show up. Really, at the end of the day. So every one of you in here have such an incredible platform to shape the identities of young people. There's no greater privilege than that. None. That's awesome. And look, you all know this. You're here. And, especially those that have a strong walk and a strong faith and lead in a strong relationship, with Jesus and his identity as a Christian, right? That's part of it. We've got myths of an identity. Now, you know this piece. The myths of identity, is the 3 simple ones that we give teenagers are, I am what I do. That's a myth because that's a performance-based identity, because when you get hurt, what happens? Right? We've got about 10 athletes now, pros, college, that they're struggling because they've been hurt, and they go, what do I do now? Because all they've done is a performance-based identity. I am what I do, I am what I have, and then here's the third one that's the toughest for a teenage brain. I am who others say that I am. That's tough. That is tough. If you're a non-Christian, it's tough. As a Christian, it's great, right? But that doesn't mean it's not tough still, too. And so with identity, we got to go and we say 2 things. And this is what I did with Callie. And man, because he's going to let me lean on him and talk about part of our path so far in our relationship together. Identity, we have 2 questions. And here are the 2 questions for identity. You ready? Here's the first one is, what am I known for? That's a real simple way right now. Right? That's an identity question. What am I known for? And if you want extra credit around that, then go ask your players and your assistant coaches and say, hey, what am I known for? And see what words they use to describe you. And if you want triple extra credit, if you have to be married, ask your spouse, what am I known for? Just be ready to handle what? Truth. And then the second piece, though, because remember, this whole piece about narrative is not about the past. It's about your preferred what? Come on, you prefer what? Stay with me. Yeah, your preferred future. So this identity piece is then, we got to layer that in and say, look, however, whatever qualities I'm bringing to the table right now, as good as it is, it likely is not going to be good enough in the competitive world to get the mission accomplished. That's why I have to keep what? Growing and getting better. And so future identity comes in simple ways. So what do I need to be known for? Okay? What am I known for? That's current identity. What do I need to be known for? Here's a different way to say that. What does the mission need me to be known for? That's why I love the phrase, coaches on mission. And Kelly told me that, I was like, you got to be, man, yes. Because this whole thing is about protecting your mission once you get clear about your mission. But sometimes the mission says, what do you need to be known for? Now, some of you in here are going to say, would tell me at some point, because this is my 31st year of doing all this stuff. I'm an old guy. I'm not near as old as Mark Steffens, but I'm an old guy. Some of you say, but look, Jeremy, look, I'm introverted. I'm not extroverted. Right? That's the style. And we're never going to ask you to be something that you're not. That's what we tell our players. We're never going to ask you to be something that you're not. But we are going to lean in because we are about growth. We are going to ask you to be more of who you are. And that's why with this question that ties into identity of what do you need to be known for, if we give this analogy of a box of crayons. Got 128 crayon box. My youngest is a 7-year-old girl. Every day still rainbows and unicorns, right? My oldest is 20, right? And so we got a good range there. And my daughter, she uses the same 6 crayons every morning. Got a box of 128. We have to go in and say, when we say, well, what do you need to be known for? We want to add another different color to a different shade to the picture. But Jeremy, that's not who I am. You know why? That comes back to you can't outperform your what? Your self-identity. And when you go there and say things like, but that's not who I am, you're boxing your identity in. So you're right, you'll never outperform that. You're right. But what if we could add a different shade to that? And then the last part of it, and this is my favorite. I mean, I like it all. But for today, this is my favorite. Because this is one about you. This is what only you can bring to the table. That's gifts. And a leader gives a gift to help those that follow them either do a couple of things. Number one, a leader gives a gift to help the other individual maximize their strengths within their role. Or a leader gives a gift by just removing barriers so the other individual can do what they need to do within their role, right? You kind of got a couple of options there where those pieces are. And the interesting thing about gifts is when I give a gift and I give it, at the end of the day, if I really give it with the right intention, right, I'm not expecting anything what? Yeah, if I really, truly give it. And I work with so many coaches, that struggle with burnout. Last night, I'm in San Francisco with the 49ers, and I'm backstage with Steve Young and Alex Smith. And we have about 4 or 5 young coaches on the 49ers squad that have been there 2 years, and they're talking about burnout, and where they go through. It's because everything is so task-driven in their life and what they're doing. And I said, hey, what if we talk about gifts for a second, just like we're talking about now? What do you mean, Jeremy? Well, what if we shift in something and say, what can you bring to the table every single day and just provide and give it out there? Something that is uniquely to you without expectation of return. It's up to the other person on the other side to receive it. That's on them. But if you bring it to the table and they choose to receive it, then guess what you're doing as a leader? You're protecting the mission and you're helping the team and that person get to their preferred future as fast as possible with the least amount of what? Risk. It's a beautiful part of a gift. And I would encourage every one of you, and what I want you guys to think about is, what are your core 5? That's what we called it. Your core 5 gifts as a coach with your team that you are giving every single day. That if a player receives, that's helping them protect the mission. So you can reach your preferred future as fast as possible with the least amount of risk. Jeremy, what do you mean by gifts? I'm going to give you an example of 3. All right, here, back in the days when I was doing performance coaching and like, here were my first 3. And when I would have a pro athlete fly in and they would come spend 6 weeks with us, the first question I ask any athlete is, I got to know what their promised land is. I got to know what story they're trying to roll with. And then I said, okay. I said, and in that conversation, here's what I'm bringing to the table for you so you understand me, because clarity is king. My wife makes me say clarity is king, queen. It's probably should say that, right? But this is when I have those conversations, gifts. Here are the gifts that I'm going to give you. Will these help you achieve what you're trying to achieve? And here's my first gift. My first gift as a coach is to make every practice purposeful and meaningful. Every practice, I'm going to do that. Because how many times do players get frustrated with their practice and their workouts are wasteful? You got lines of 10 players with one cone drill. People are standing around until the next one's up. Like, that's wasting time. You have coaches who are just gravitating towards the players, the X factor players that they got to get up to speed, and they take for granted the great players on their team because they know they can trust and rely on them that they'll do what they're supposed to do. So I'm just going to focus on the ones I need to get better. But then now they don't feel like they belong anymore because I'm not connecting with them. I'm just communicating. Because why? Because I know what you're going to do. I can rely on that. I got to focus here. Got to be careful about that. Right? So now I'm not making his practice purposeful and what? Meaningful. And then when that happens cumulatively, then guess what? Now you have players who don't feel like they belong anymore. They just feel like that they're here. Then you're in real trouble. Right? So that's my first one. Make every practice purposeful and meaningful. Here's my second one. We're going to create opportunities for you to rise up and succeed. Create opportunities to rise up and succeed. That means I got to bring my A game every day, right? If I'm going to do that for every player, I've got to bring my A game. I've got to bring the best version of me that I have today to the moment. If I'm going to create a different opportunity for you to rise up and succeed, but I got to know you and I got to do the same for you. Now, you have to have the courage to step in and take advantage of that so you can grow and get better. But the truth is, growth isn't for everybody, neither is winning. But if I do my job and I give you that gift every day to lean in and take that risk to rise up and succeed, now I'm cultivating courage in you. You're not chasing confidence. Man, that's a good thing. You know why? Because safe makes you average, courage makes you special. In any story, safe makes you average, but courage makes you special. But as a coach, I've got to give that gift to create opportunities for you to rise up and succeed. Here's the third one, is to compete for my athlete's heart every single day. I've got to do that. That's the connection trumps communication piece, right? And so those days when I'm fatigued, those days when I'm tired, those days when my brain says lean out, but the mission says lean in, the way that I start that process, outside of a little bit of prayer, I go prayer and then gifts, because gifts let me check myself, and gifts let me make my attention now focused on the people outside of my skin. How am I adding value? How am I injecting good into what that person needs that day, right? It's one of the greatest things that you can do, I'm telling you, is to sit there and think about what are my core 5 gifts. It's one of the greatest things that you'll be able to do, and bring that. And that doesn't mean they're the same 5 for 5 years, 10 years straight, right? I mean, those will be dynamics. Sometimes that'll be depending on where you are in your season. Kelly's gifts that he's going to bring in preseason are going to look different than when he gets going in midseason. And now all of a sudden, they got a couple of important wins in the conference they got to go get. Right? So the gift that he's going to bring to the table might be a little bit different than what he did preseason. The gift that he's going to bring in postseason to make a run, right? And the NCAA, that might look like a little bit of a different gift. Part of that gift that you give to others might be the environment that you design so you can help protect attention of your players. That's a really important gift. So they learn how to focus on the signal and not the noise, right? Gift, leadership, which is wonderful. All right, why should others follow you? Lean in for growth, because we're not here just trying to get better. We're trying to be the best at getting what? Better. And that can mean different things. And best at getting better doesn't mean you got to have the most expensive technology. Sometimes the best at getting better is, man, I got to recognize I have to pause for 10 minutes today. I've got to pause. I got to be quiet. I've got to leverage silence so I can listen. And as a Christian, that's the greatest gift that you can give. Instead of just go, 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 go. That's important. Does everybody on your team know what your promised land is really? We went through that. If I went and got all 26 players and I'd say, hey, what's the invitation that you believe that Kelly invited you to be a part of? Because leadership starts with an invitation. And if I came in and looked at your team, I'm asking your players, what's the invitation, right, that your coach, and what's the journey that your coach invited you to be a part of really? And when coaches come here and they complain about culture, they complain about lack of buy-in, they complain about they got a bad, man, all that stuff, and they want to get all, detailed about it, but stop, just quit. Let's start with, you got a bad invitation. You got to change your invitation to the party. But Jeremy, they're coming in with bad language. They're coming in, stop. Quit playing victim, blame, excuse, and compare. Just quit. Change your invitation, because that's the only thing that you can control. What's the journey that others believe that you're inviting them to be a part of in the moment right now? And when you back a good invitation with some really good gifts, guess what? People want to come to your party, right? In fact, they can't wait to come to your party. And you know why that's important? Because when you're done on the pitch, when you're done with a player, when you're done having lunch in the cafeteria, right, with your player, you are going to want anybody, but especially young people, to be able to say, wow, being around Kelly is always a guaranteed investment of my time. That's a great thing when people can say that, right? And if they can't, we got to come back and say, well, I got to change my invitation. Or is everybody not clear about the desirable but difficult to achieve future that I'm trying to make real for them? Are we all on the same page with that? Do we have an identity problem because the version of our identity is not clear enough and compelling enough to protect our mission? Or do I have a gift problem of what I'm bringing to the table? See how that stacks? Does that make sense to everybody? Right? Be able to go through? So, I'm going to close this piece out for you for today. You guys have an incredible agenda today, so thanks for letting me share, which is wonderful. Leadership starts with the question, why should anybody follow you? The language of story. That's how your brain, my brain is wired. And we got to know some elements to that story so we can go in and we can lean in and know where do we need to get more clear? Where do we need to get more certain within that story to make our invitation better? And once we have the invitation locked in, then we got to say, okay, am I connecting, not just communicating? As time-starved as I am, is that rocking and how does that work? And at the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing. In order to be able to do all these things that we're talking about, it all comes down to this one very thing. Ready? If your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence won't make a difference. If you're going to be a coach that others can't wait to follow, if you're going to be a leader that protects the mission to reach your desirable but difficult to achieve future that you're going to help make real, then it all starts with how present are you? And look, present doesn't mean you're bringing four senses to the moment, right? Present doesn't mean I'm bringing four senses right here. I'm having a conversation, but I really want to hear what she's telling her, so I'm just kind of leaning on my ear, but I'm going, oh, yeah, man, that was good. That was good. Present doesn't mean when Kelly comes and goes, hey, Jeremy, I need to connect with you. Give me 2 minutes of your time. And I go, yeah, Kelly, what you got? But I'm still looking at my what? Phone. I'm not present. Present means all five senses. Now, in my opinion doesn't mean anything, but that should be everybody's number one gift of your five. Everybody. As a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, as a coach, as a community leader, that's a great gift, right? Be present. I'm excited for you. So in the Dropbox, I'll have information with a handout of all this kind of stuff. We'll give you some suggestions on things you can do with your team, some questions you can ask in conversations with your players that will help create clarity, that will help build certainty. One of the reasons why somebody's ever going to follow you is when your certainty is greater than their doubt, and they're going to want to follow you, right? And when you can bring, and it doesn't have to be complete certainty, it can be directional certainty. When you do that, man, that's good. That means you go. Now, Let me shift and add my last little piece of this. 5 minutes, got 5 minutes? We're all in sport, right? We all are trying to compete and be the best in the world. In your world, meaning maybe in your conference, in your way, whatever that is. For most of my career, to be the best in the world is literally help an athlete be the best in the world of what they would do. But we also have a different calling in that, and that's to be the best for the world. And, we started putting that question out as what does being the best for the world look like in the world of high-performance sports? I started doing that in 2002. In 2018, I got invited to go speak to at the John Maxwell Leadership Facility, right? Everybody here know who John Maxwell is? Incredible leadership. I've learned a lot from him. It was great. And I get up in there, and if you Google what John Maxwell says about leadership, he says, leadership starts with one thing and one thing only. You guys know what it is? What's John Maxwell say? Influence. That's what he said. You'll see it. There'll be 2 million Google pages that quote. Leadership is one thing and one thing only, influence. So I get up there in the John Maxwell Training Center in Atlanta, and I get up there, and I go, leadership is not come down to one thing called influence. And then I realized, oh, man, this is not the place to say that. And I've never got invited back. That's probably why. Oh, my gosh. Deja vu. Leadership starts with your ability to make a good decision. Because I know plenty of people that want to influence others, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with it. Right? They don't want the accountability. They just want to be an influencer. Leadership starts with your ability to make a good decision. And in that part of that talk, we talked about some of this stuff, being the best in the world in the pursuit of narrative. But then we talked about being the best for the world. And how are you adding value into the life of another? And one of the things I want to encourage all of you is that you have relationships right now, I'm telling you, that the mission says you need to pay more attention to be able to leverage, to inject good into the life of that person. You're not taking advantage of it for whatever reason. Now, as a Christian, we want to be bold in our faith, and we want to be able to do it. How can we tie it? How can we connect? And a lot of times I get coaches that will say, Jeremy, I'm not the type of Christian, and I love Jesus. I'm not the type of Christian that's going to be up there and be evangelical and talk and call people and quote Bible verses. Like, man, you don't got to do any of that. It's okay. You can just connect people, right? Because where two or more are gathered, Jesus is going to show up. One of the things that we do, that I do, is here in West Charlotte, West Boulevard Ministries, and it's a nonprofit that caters to young boys ages 8 to 12 over in West Charlotte. And in poverty in Charlotte, if you don't live in Charlotte, you don't know much about Charlotte. There have been studies since 2014. They looked at the 50 largest cities in the United States. And they say, what's the likelihood of a young person born in poverty that they will get out of poverty by the time they're 18 and they'll make more than $18,500? Charlotte, twice since 2014, has been 50 out of 50, which means we're the worst, which is crazy to me, right? Charlotte. And so we're over there and we're pouring into these boys, and there are about 20 of them. They have nothing. You guys have heard the stories, right? His mom's a prostitute in North Charlotte, selling cocaine and crime. This stuff is crazy. We're over there, we're loving on them. And one of the things they do is every Tuesday, they have an opportunity to say a Bible verse. And the owner of the nonprofit will step up, and they'll have that opportunity and what that means. So I'm over there, and those things are great. Then I'm like, okay, I have an opportunity where I'm working with a young man named Riley Leonard. Riley was the quarterback at Duke. I've had Riley since he was in high school. Riley loves Jesus, man. When I tell you, this kid loves Jesus. And he didn't come to know Jesus and have a relationship in his faith until he was in high school, a sophomore. And Riley is always on me about, Coach Boone, what's the Bible verse you got for me? What's the Bible verse you got for me? And I'm just going to be honest. I'm not good with that. I'm not. I can't go sit there and quote Matthew 24. It says, I'm not good at that as a leader. I want to be. I'm trying. Riley played at Duke, and now he's he's the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. That's who I took to San Francisco with me yesterday to go meet these quarterbacks and be able to pour into Riley and help him. But one of the things I did a year ago, and I was like, how can I use connection as a coach to impact the life of others and even bring Jesus in the middle of it where I can and really change that? And so here's what we do, man, every week. And you guys have things like this. And I just want to encourage you and challenge you to just go look for it. The young man that stands up at West Boulevard that gives his testimony. I mean, that says the Bible verse and does it well with clarity and with conviction. We video that young man, and he says the Bible verse, and then he says what it means to him, and he sends it to Riley. Right? Now that'd be a starting quarterback of Notre Dame. And you know what Riley does? It never fails. Riley, and that blesses Riley. Because Riley, everything is about a performance for him. Right? And he needs people who are real. He needs people who are not about sports and performance. He's got this little 8-year-old, 9-year-old, young little black kid who's trying to figure out how to get out. And Latino and white, it's not just black. And he sends them every Tuesday. And Riley sends a video back. And it pours into Riley in ways that none of us can. And Riley pours into these kids that they see him on TV and they think that they can never do that. And they're learning, wow, I can impact the life of somebody else outside of my community and outside of the story that I have that doesn't feel good and that right now society says I'm never even going to get out of this place, right, to be able to do that. And it's just connecting people. And it's the most important part of Riley's week, he'll tell you. In fact, I think I've got here. Look, I'm going to. Ready? Look at this. Oh, you don't have a.
This week's Bible verse. Luke 19:10. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. And what that means to me is like when people get baptized and God comes down to save them.
Yeah. So that's simple, right? I mean, to us, for those that have a relationship, but this young man, right, is in the most drug-infested community in Latino in this city. It took him 18 tries to make that video. He was so nervous and scared. 18! I'm like, man, after 40 minutes, I'm like, man, I gotta go, right? But we're leveraging relationships. That's just what I want you guys to do. Leverage relationships. That he's learning how to look into a camera. He's learning how to speak. He's learning skill set. But more importantly, he's pouring into Riley. And this is what Riley sends back.
So Branson, Riley here, just in here watching some film on Beautiful Thursday. Just got a Bible study with the guys on the team. So just like you guys are doing, even as college athletes are doing ourselves. So super proud of you guys and everything that you do. The verse this week, and it's a verse that I share all the time. Matthew 23:12. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted in the kingdom of heaven. So no matter who you are, where you come from, you better humble yourselves if you want to find that eternal peace with Jesus Christ. Never put yourself above anybody. Once again, super proud of you. If you ever need anything, please reach out. And to finish things up, there's a quote that I kind of like to live by as well. Whether you think that you can or you can't do something, you're right. So if you believe in yourself and you believe you can do it, you can do it. If you tell yourself you can't do it, you're not going to be able to do it. God bless, brother. See you.
Every Tuesday, that happens. We've done that for a year. Riley can't wait, and these boys now can't wait to step in and create just a relationship with Riley, much less, right? And you have that opportunity. Y'all, listen. It is crazy. It is crazy when you sit back and pause and you go, look, all right, Jesus, who do I have in my networking circle that I can go and introduce and connect with to inject good into the life of another? You never know what happens when you ask that question. And you don't even have to force it. You don't have to, it's nuts. There's a young man at West Charlotte, my last story, I promise I got to go, you guys have an agenda. But listen, West Charlotte with high school, Harding High. All these kids, they want to talk, and they have nothing, same thing, but they're in high school. And they're all laying on the ground, but they all said they want to win conference championship. This is crazy. I talk about how Jesus shows up, where you just show up and just connect people. And then you step back, you go, look, Lord, you take it from here. I'm just putting them together. It is crazy. And I look around, they're all laying on the ground, and they're all on their phones, and they talk about they want to be the best. And I dig in pretty hard, pretty aggressive. But I pick on this one kid, Deshane. I didn't know him. He was 135 pounds. He was on the far left of the weight room, laying down, not paying attention. And I called his tail out in front of everybody. And then I turn around and go, and in front of all his boys, I said, but you know, Deshane, why I picked you? Because I know something about you tells me you can handle me, right? And I'm not calling you out. I'm inviting you back in because you raised your hand and said that you wanted to actually win. So I'm inviting you in. See, accountability is not calling out. It's inviting people back in to help get to their story and what they're trying to tell. And Deshane, had some issues. So I leave. I go out of town. I come back 72 hours later, not long later, and the AD goes, you hear what happened to one of our kids? I go, no, I've been on a plane. Because one of our kids got shot 4 times, got stabbed. Okay. And I don't know, I didn't know anybody in there. He goes, you know the kid? I go, what? He goes, yeah, it was the kid that you called out. What? So I rushed to the hospital. Nobody had gone to see this kid. I rushed to this hospital. He's laying in bed, got shot, got 2 scars back here where the bullets went through, got shot. And it was over $1 for marijuana, by the way. Right? It was what this kid just got shot with. And the whole family's in there. And we go and visit. And then we leave. And then I go back, and the next week I invite the quarterback for another school that I work with to come pour into Deshane because we're trying to connect and teach people go. So the quarterback and 2 of his buddies from this other school meet me at the hospital. And I walk in, and the quarterback, I thought, had his brother there. And his brother's a grown man who's 250 and maybe 6% body fat at best. And he stands up. And I didn't ask him his name, but the quarterback is Khalil Wright. And so Sheikh Khalil, and I learned that's his dad. And his dad, I go, yeah, you want to come up? He goes, I don't know why I'm here. My son just said he had an opportunity to come pour into this kid that's also a high school football player. You want to connect him? So we go up. Khalil talks to the kid, to Deshane. Deshane just listens. Can't really do a lot. And then we pray over and we get ready to leave. When we leave, this dad goes, stop, wait. We're not leaving yet. Y'all, listen, this is crazy. When you connect people, what God does, this is crazy. He goes, wait, we're not done. So I'm thinking, all right, here we go. This dad's going to take him to church and preach a little bit of what he's going to do. I mean, it's like a motivational thing, right? That stuff drives me crazy. But he didn't. He goes, stop. And he goes and he stands over the bed. And in that moment, I realized who he was. And I can't believe I didn't even think about it. It's Anthony Wright. Anthony was a quarterback in the NFL, played with 3 or 4 teams, and this was his son. Did not even picture. I coached against Anthony back in 2002. I didn't recognize him. And he stands over there and he goes, boy, he goes, you're going to get healed and you're going to do something special with your life. And you know how I know? And I'm like, oh, man, I was thinking to go get churchy, right? Because Deshane's from the hood. He's not churchy or Jesus at all. Y'all, this is crazy. Because you know how I know? How? He rips his shirt off. He goes, how I know is because I have 4 bullets and they were the exact same bullet holes in the exact same places where Deshane got shot. To the T. Because I got shot 4 times in 2017. I got 2 scars coming right here in the back of my spine. The exact same as Shane. He goes, and I lived through it. And here's why I lived through it. And here's how I did. You can't make that up. Deshane. And Deshane is now, he's healthy. We've got him. He's 16 years old, and now we have him up to an 8th grade reading level. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't started with an invitation. The invitation for Khalil to come and pour into here. Somebody needs you all. Somebody needs you to give a better invitation. They do. There's some young person that's not on your team that you coach that they need you to go invite and connect. And look, and again, if you're like me, if you're not the type of Jesus follower that is all in and listen and worship and praise and going, and I do that on Sundays too, but if that's not where you are, that's not your, how you express and your style, what you want to do. If you're introverted, that's fine, man, that's great. But all I'm saying is a leader, go in, invite, connect, Listen, make listening your competitive edge so you can hear people's story. You can pour into the life of another and then be present. Why? Because if your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence won't make a difference. Thank you for the time. Y'all light me all up. Have a good one. Y'all have a great, 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 great day. Thanks, Kelly, for letting me get on my soapbox. I'll have my information there. We'll connect with you, and it'll be about our social media, email, however we can help, we want to help. Right? I've got a wonderful team. We are leaning in, and we mean what we say and say what we mean. So thanks again. Thank you.